There's the man of the hour.
He's logging in.
Second. Sorry for. Can everyone hear me?
Yay.
Hi, Father.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good to see you all. Hold on, I'm gonna try to get a little more lighting behind me. Sorry, I'm at.
You're in a darkened closet.
Yeah, I know. 1 second.
Toys behind him.
Is this on there?
Oh, you're just like,
A little bit there. Yeah, this is the kids' room, so I don't know.
is that home?
Yeah.
Do one more thing.
Oh, this is cool.
That's cool.
Hold on. All right.
We should try playing charades.
I know, right?
2 words.
Can you all hear me?
Yep.
All right. Well,
Can't see you. Okay, there you are.
You know, yeah, you're a little dark, Father.
we'll figure this out. This is the first time I've ever done this
Yeah, it looks good though.
with Lee in a class. That is, I've done Zoom before. So hold on.
There you go.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. So now I know. First of all, welcome everyone. Can you all hear me? You said yes. Okay, good. Michael, welcome, Michael and Leah and Joe and Emily. And I don't know if anyone else has joined us this evening, but if not, it's okay. You know what? It's recording too, so this is good for those who can't be attending this, right, Emily?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah, so this is recording, so we can get it, which is nice, very nice. Wait, Jessica, we're trying to log in. Looks like it's trying to load. We'll be in. Okay, so John and Jessica will also be joined, which is nice. We'll have that. Oh, hey, Edna, I didn't see you in the corner there. And so we should be expecting John and Jessica as well. Now, what was I going to say? I think if you feel the need, I don't hear anything now, but if I think there's a feature where if you have to mute your side of things, you can, if need be. It's okay if you don't. Okay, but if things get a little crazy in the background, like it can be at my house, it can be muted, so that way it again, you won't be distracted or others won't be. As we wait for John and Jessica, actually, they'll just jump in when we get here. We'll go ahead and begin with a prayer. We can just bow our heads. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Amen. Christ our God, we ask that you watch over us, illumine us, and guide those who are journeying to orthodoxy, to your church, that you may open their hearts and minds, that you may illumine their hearts and minds with your teachings, and that they may arrive at the end of their journey, knowing and experiencing more fully and profoundly your peace and your presence. We also ask that you heal those who are ill of the coronavirus, those who are ministering to these individuals, their families and loved ones. Be with them and comfort them and watch over us all during this time. We ask this in your holy name, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Well, again, welcome to all of you, and I'm glad we can do this. You're going to see is a lot of, I'm sure, churches doing this now, where we are relying on technology to keep us connected, especially in these times where we actually are being encouraged even by our church leadership, the bishops, to stay home as an act of love, and it's an act of consideration to those who are especially vulnerable of this virus in our society right now. It's kind of this, this team effort here, if you will, to do our part in what's, I guess, health officials are saying. The most important thing we can do is trying to keep the illnesses from spiking and overwhelming our healthcare system and hospitals. So I don't know if any of you are on the front lines of this or not, or being impacted directly, but again, this is one of the things the church is asking us to do, is to stay home, but to stay connected through these kinds of platforms, which we're going to hopefully be offering more of at St. Basil's. Because while you can connect with other churches, I know, many of you want to stay connected to this specific parish, to the specific services we do, and the specific ministries that we have to offer. So we're going to try to do this also. I think John and Jessica are trying to call now here.
Oh.
We're in now.
Are you guys in?
Yeah, we're in. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Jessica. Hi, John. Welcome.
Hi. We can't see you though.
Yeah, and you're faceless right now. We know.
We're faceless. Do we connect via FaceTime or probably not? I'm assuming not.
No, you know what? It's okay for now, as long as you can hear me.
Okay.
It should be.
Oh yeah.
You might have to press a couple buttons and you'll get to where we can see you. There should be a link on that page where it links you in, but we'll have to work out the kinks unless someone knows.
Yeah.
Emily, do you have any
forgive me,
suggestions?
it's on the bottom left. If you put your cursor on the bottom left, it'll show where you can connect by video also.
Do you hear that, Jessica?
Yeah, on the phone or on your computer. I was trying to get on with my computer, but it was just giving me such issues, so I just called in with my phone. And so
It's okay. It's okay.
I just downloaded the app. Okay.
You did download the app?
I just downloaded the app onto the computer, so hopefully we can do that while it's uploading, and we'll just try to get on in here.
Okay, as long as you can hear me, then that's the main thing right now.
Oh wait, it looks like we're about to come into the meeting.
Right. Okay, exciting, very exciting.
All right, wonderful. So it looks like we're going to connect with you guys. Oh, okay, there you are. Hello.
There you are.
You all can see us?
Yes, we can see you.
I can't see you. Can you see them?
I can see them.
Okay, well, we still can't see you though, right? Emily, can you see her?
I can see her. You got to go to grid view, Father. Then you can see everyone.
Grid view. Okay, I'm going. Oh.
Hello.
Exciting. Now, how do I go back to the speaker? All right, well, this is really cool. Again, you'll bear with me as I'm trying to navigate through this new thing here. But this is really cool. And we'll just take it from here. 1 second. Emily, is there any way of doing it to where? Yeah.
To get off the grid view, Father, put your cursor at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
And then when your cursor's on the bottom of the screen, at the top right, you'll see where you can do speaker view. You can change your views.
I see. All right. I'll figure it out. Thank you, everybody.
There you go.
Am I out of it now?
You're out of there. Now you're okay.
Okay. Well, I think I know what to do. Okay. So anyhow, welcome, John and Jessica. As I was saying to the rest of the group, we're kind of obviously limited here in terms of the virus and in terms of being together physically. But thank God for technology, we can do this and still stay connected, as we're hopefully going to also offer other ways of staying connected virtually during this time of hunkering down and kind of staying in hibernation for this time. Hopefully it's temporary, but we just don't know. Any questions before we begin here, or any technical issues before we start that I'm not aware of on your end? If there are none, excellent. Okay. Please be sure to. I want to make one other plug here, and that is we just started live streaming the church services on Facebook. So for those who want to follow along with our services, we are offering that now. We're able to get up and running. So this, in fact, you can go and watch it. Now it's been recorded. This evening we had our 6 o'clock evening Lenten service, the Compline. Wednesday night we'll have it at 6 o'clock, and then Friday night, as well as any service we do, we're gonna Facebook live stream it. So that's something just to be aware of. So because again, as I mentioned, we're being encouraged not to attend the services, which is kind of contrary to our spiritual nature, but is an act of love and consideration for trying to help stem the tide of this virus. But again, you can at least watch the services online. So just be aware of the Facebook live streaming, which Matthew was able to help get up and running, which I'm really excited about. All right, well, then those are just trying to think of some other housekeeping items before we begin here. We are shooting for the Lazarus Saturday to have chrismation. The chrismation, now some of you are getting baptized, and I know that the date that Eleni reached out to you about, April 11th, doesn't work for you, but I believe that, Joe, it works for you, I think.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, Michael, Nena, I don't know if that date worked for you. Okay. Now, are you both getting chrismated? Just chrismated, right, Michael, Nena? Okay. So you guys, okay, that April 11th works for you. And then John, Jessica, I think Michael and Leah, we're going to have to try something else for all of you, right?
Okay.
Well, weddings are falling off of our calendar. Every wedding has fallen off of our calendar.
Oh, I
except
see.
for that one. So
Right.
Most likely it will. And so so most likely we will be able to get baptized on the 11th. Just waiting to hear from her. I'm
Okay.
almost positive the wedding is in the Bay Area. And so every venue has reached out to us. So yeah. I'm pretty sure we'll be there.
Yeah, I'm sorry from a business perspective for all of you, but for the date, if that works out, then we could do as many on that day as possible, which is a beautiful day.
Okay.
But for those who can't, we'll figure out another time. But that's what we're shooting for, so that all of you can become Orthodox before Easter. And for those, again, who weren't able to get to the other services or haven't physically able to get there, as long as you watch the classes online and have read the book, and you're good to go. So that's just the main thing. We can all circle back individually about that, but that's pretty much, because all of you have been coming to the services, you're fulfilling that requirement. You'll need to, as I mentioned, I think before, identify a sponsor for you. And again, just as a reminder, the sponsor is ideally somebody who, again, you see as someone who can help you spiritually grow, is a good example of the faith, somebody who is sacramentally active in the faith and in the church. And if you have any questions about that kind of individual, just let me know. But you'll also have to identify a sponsor for yourself and for your children. Now, we've got 2 big families getting baptized here with lots of kids. But so if you have any concerns or questions about who's going to sponsor your child, let me know. But you'll need that, the book, the Introducing the Orthodox Church book, and then just either attending or watching these catechism courses that we've been doing. I don't think we've been able to upload all of them. We still have to work with Emily and her phone to I'm sure we will find a way to upload those. I think 2 sessions Emily recorded. So some housekeeping items there. Any questions about the requirements of what you need to do to become Orthodox?
I have a question.
Yes, Michael.
Choosing a name, can you talk a little bit about that and give us a little guidance on that?
Yes. I think Panayotis is a very nice name. I'm just joking. I'm kidding. No, yeah, good question, Michael. Very good question. That's the other thing I forgot. I always forget, is that if when one becomes baptized or chrismated in the Orthodox Church, you take on the name of a saint. Now, I think many of you already do happen to have a name of a saint, either in the scriptures or just in the history of the church. Or if not, maybe a name that you could identify a close one with a saint. But for instance, Michael. Well, Michael is a name that we have in the in the church after the Archangel Michael, or perhaps some other saints who are Michael. So you would not have to, let's say, pick another name. Now, I don't know about Edna. If there's a Saint Edna. Last time I checked, I don't think there was. So you would have to, if there's not, and there's a lot I don't know. Sometimes you just go to Orthodox Wiki, and if you look up, there's something like lists of saints, and there's like tons, and you could even see how some names are connected to your name. So like Jessica, there might be names that people use who have the name Jessica, and usually identify these saints with their name. But ultimately, if you don't have a name of a saint that's recognized in the Orthodox Church, you can just, if there's a saint that speaks to you, one of them whose life you like, whose life you're inspired by, and it doesn't have to be one that, it's the first letter of your name or anything close to your name. It could be something different. I mean, I know somebody whose name was, again, Bruce, and he picked the name John. So actually, so totally different, but it's because that name, that saint he identified with that saint. So, but yes, Michael, to your question, that hopefully offers some guidance in ways of identifying what name you want. Obviously Joseph is within the tradition. You would not have to. Now some do. Some even if they have a name of a saint, they still want to pick another saint. But by and large, usually, anyways, you don't have to. Does that help, Michael? Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's the other thing you would have to do is identify. If you need any help with that, let me know. I think, and then those who are going to get baptized, you're going to need a candle. Eleni, actually, talk to Eleni at the office. She's got a list of what you need if you're going to get baptized. That some extra stuff that the ones who are getting chrismated don't necessarily need. Although people get chrismated also get candles too, but there's some extra things on the list for those who are going to get baptized, and Eleni has that information. So that's the other thing. Make sure to get from Eleni is the list of supply. Now, sometimes traditionally the sponsor will get a cross for the person who's getting baptized. For sure, baptized and sometimes chrismated. Now, that's not necessary. But that is something that sometimes you don't have to tell the sponsor to do that. That's something, once you identify your sponsor, we can talk about. But anyhow, those are some housekeeping items. Any final questions before we move on to the class at hand? All right. So again, I'm excited for all of you. You're getting closer to that day. It's going to be so wonderful having you all officially you are part of the church, but now as Orthodox Christians, fully integrated in the church. You are entering the church at a very, very unique time. Because basically no one's going to church right now. So it's a really weird thing. And it's really, everything's changing day by day. But we're going to take it one step at a time. In other words, I know that some dioceses the bishops are saying any sacraments should be the guests should only include those who are of immediate family.
Wait, say
because
that?
of this nature of this virus. So normally where, it may not be as many people there to witness what you becoming Orthodox. We'll see. By the time of Lazarus Saturday, things may be less severe. I don't know, but you are coming at a unique time. But nonetheless, I'm excited for all of you because you're all amazing, and you're all going to strengthen our church by your presence, by your personalities, the gifts you bring, the experiences you bring, the energy you bring. I'm just so excited for all of you, not just for you, but selfishly for me and for our community. It's really a beautiful thing to say that we're going to bring in let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, probably about 15 people get with your children as well to our church. It's just incredible. So anyways, I'm thrilled and so excited for all of you. As I said, selfishly as well. Because our bonds are going to be that much stronger. So, okay, those are some of the, again, housekeeping items. We did leave off last. Now, how many of you have handouts from last time?
Oh, let me go.
Oh, we do. Let me grab mine.
Yeah, scramble. Go ahead, scramble. Bathroom break right here. Bathroom break. Go ahead, get your water. Get your favorite candy. I'm facing this way because if I face that way, you'd see my daughter's dollhouse. Oh, anyways, I'm sparing to that. Now, if you don't have the handout, I can actually email all of you the handout if you don't have it.
Which handouts are we looking at, though?
Okay, yes, thank you, Michael. It is the one we used last time. It's the one that's very bland title of communion.
Okay. We got that one?
Okay, that's the one we're using tonight.
Okay, we got that one.
If you don't have it, I should be able to email it to you. And if you don't have it, that's okay. I mean, it's if you can't find it, John and Jessica, it's no big deal.
You can email it if we can't find it.
Yeah, I have it. Oh, man. Oh, wait. I think it's
Bear with. Do you have it or no? If not, I can email it to you.
Oh, man.
Me too. Just email it.
I know I put it somewhere.
Okay, hang tight for one.
I can't find anything.
I know, it's okay. Don't worry. Hold on. Let's see. Orthodoxy 101.
I had it somewhere. I can't remember where I put it.
No, it's not. No problem. I should be able to get it to you. Okay. And let's see. Your email again. Yes.
Our email?
Yeah.
It's Jess
Yeah.
at johnandjessstudio.com.
Okay.
And then John with no H.
In the operating room at 11:30, but she has to call in the morning.
Okay. Hopefully that gets to you. If not, just listen closely.
Okay.
You have to get admitted because you can't just show up at 11:30 for the OR.
Right, she's gonna let me know.
Okay. So we left off with the topic of ecumenical councils last time, which
Okay.
which is something. If you guys want, you can also mute it on your end, and that way, if there's any background noise that you can still hear, but you don't have to worry about that.
That would be awesome. Yeah, we'll mute.
It's okay. I'm just saying, whoever, it's all good.
Okay.
Now, the ecumenical councils we looked at last time is so very important for the Orthodox Church because we're known as a Church of the Councils, and what makes us, I think, really, it's a really cool way of handling things. It's through a collegial system, as we said. It's not just one in matters of faith or dogma. And this is, by the way, page 3 again, for those who are following along. It's again over matters of dogma and faith about that these issues were handled in a council, and the blueprint for that, as we saw last time, was the Book of Acts, where the first council took place in Jerusalem with the apostles and the church leadership of their time. So we have the biblical precedent, the biblical blueprint for what would later become the way the church would deal with crises of dogma or other matters too, actually. You know, what's interesting is, along with the 7 ecumenical councils that we discussed, it's important to know that that's the biggest level. Ecumenical means in the Greek the world. So that was like the bishops from everywhere of the Roman Empire at the time came together. But even before that, there were and continues to be what's called local councils. of a certain region. And that's because it's the same principle that there's certain things it's good on a regular basis, not even only when there's matters of crises or things that could tear apart the church, but it even became a practice in church history where the bishops would get together, I believe, at least twice a year, of bishops in other regions, to just check on things, make sure things were going well. So we practice this conciliar nature, not just at the highest level of what's called the world, the ecumenical, but also on regional levels too. Even our own archdiocese has the bishops get together twice a year for purposes of just checking in, making sure things are going well, of addressing any issues that arise, which is really cool, and shows the equality of the bishops, right? That there is an equality there. And it shows another thing, that if one bishop starts to go off the deep end, just because he's a bishop does not mean what he says is the gospel truth. I mean, if he's preaching something different from the apostles, then those other bishops are there to kind of rein him in, theoretically speaking, and if need be, having to make tough decisions about, okay, this bishop is not teaching the truth, or is accurate with the gospel. So it in a way it becomes a nice checks and balances as well, because we don't have in our church this idea that just because of there's a bishop, again, that he's infallible, or what he teaches is infallible just because he's the bishop. Now, again, we all know the Pope himself. I mean, even the Catholics, and Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, or anybody else from the tradition. I mean, it's not like every word he comes out of his mouth means that he's infallible. It's when he speaks officially ex cathedra from the throne. But still, it's this idea that we ourselves know that in church history, bishops have been wrong. And in fact, the ecumenical councils that took place that we talked about last time took place because, like I could say, for the first ecumenical council, the second ecumenical council, whatever, they took place because the heresy that was being spread, the first one was from a priest, the second one, Nestorius, was the second or third one, forgive me, I can't remember now, was a bishop as well. So the heresies came from these clergy. So the other bishop said, okay, no, you're not correct in what you're saying. So this idea of the council actually is a wonderful thing for preserving the truth and the faith. And it also shows again that this is not magic. Just because I'm a priest, just because there's a bishop, he's still a human being in the sense of he could fall away. Judas fell away. He was part of the inner circle. I mean, doesn't get closer than that. He was an apostle. He fell away. So it's not an automatic for any of us in terms of our Christian and spiritual journey. We have to be vigilant. And we can't take anything for granted, no matter who we are. So that's what the councils represent too. So that's an important thing. We are a church of the councils. We're a church of conciliarity. We're a church that all of us, clergy and laity, we preserve the faith. We're guardians of the faith, and that's at least that's how we try to handle things in terms of especially difficult situations, but also regularly in local councils. Any final questions before we move on from that topic of councils and ecumenical councils? What's interesting is that there has not been the official ecumenical council that's on the books is the Seventh Ecumenical Council. That's 787. There was hundreds of years later, there was a council that took place in Crete, I believe in 2016, 18. Gosh, I cannot remember now, but forgive me. I think it's 2018. It was 2018. It was a big deal. And so that was the first of its kind since the 8th century. Not every church was represented. That's another story for another time. But the point is that there is an attempt to try and have these kinds of meetings on a grand scale. The bishops of all, the whole world gathering together, as it was done in Crete, a couple years ago. But anyhow, that's it. That's for another time. The next topic we have here is on page 5, the importance of the Bible. And this is really a very interesting topic, and because the Bible in our tradition, a lot of people, when they learn about the Orthodox Church, they ask, well, do you guys read the Bible? And it's funny because if you know about Orthodoxy, you know that the Bible for us it's ingrained in everything we do. It's in our worship services, either directly or indirectly quoted. And even the Bible itself, we believe the church put together. Because a lot of people don't know this, the Bible did not fall out from thin air for the early Christians. The first Christians, in fact, did not have the New Testament that we have today. That's just a historical fact. So this New Testament that we all, have in our homes and in our phones was not readily available, even really not until the time of the printing press in the 1500s, or whenever the printing press was created. Because before you didn't have this multiplication of the Bible that everyone has in their house. No, not every Christians before the printing press did not have the Bibles in their home. It was very you'd probably have to be very affluent, very of high status to be able to even have some parts of the Bible at home, either papyruses on scrolls, because these things were copied mainly by monks in the monasteries, copied tediously. That's how they were copied and passed down, and not everyone had it. So a lot of people don't know these things. Now, so the Bible came together because of the church. The community of faith, the church, decided on these are the books of the New Testament, and these are not the books of the New Testament. That's what, if you go to number 7 here of page 5, you'll see it took time to put the New Testament together. And number 8, the first Gospels don't appear until 30 to 60 years after the death of Christ. So prior to that, Christians relied on what's called oral tradition. We'll get into that a little bit later. And then we don't have number 10. The first complete list of the New Testament as we know it today was not officially given until 367 AD by a church father known as Athanasius the Great. So the 367 AD is the first time we see somebody saying, this is the first complete list of the New Testament, the 27 books of the New Testament. Now, up until that time, they had many of those books, or Christians had most of them by that time. But it just shows you, it took a little time to develop, and it was the community, the church, that said, these are the books. Here's what I mean by that. The church was like, these are the accurate teachings of Christ. These ones are faithful to what Christ and the apostles taught, because there were some that were not, and that came much later. Most of the New Testament, as we know, was written again during the 1st century, but there were other books that were written afterwards, way after that first century, the second century, and they were just written really later, or they were totally inaccurate. So we're not the, yeah. So anyways, that's that. And so the people heard the scriptures in the church. That's where they heard the letters of Paul. That's where they heard all the other the Gospels. They heard it in the church, and then they heard it taught and correctly interpreted through the sermons and through the teachings of those who were the leaders that kept it faithful. Now, if we go back a little bit back up on our handout to number 1, again, the liturgy. In the liturgy, every divine liturgy, we hear the New Testament of the epistle or a book of Acts and the gospel. The gospel itself on the altar is encased with gold. So on the altar, you'll see a book. That's the 4 gospels, not the entire New Testament. And then, as I said, the liturgy is replete with scriptural references. So again, it just shows you how important the Bible is to us as Orthodox. But it's important that we also have guidance, and that when we read the scriptures, and we're called to read the scriptures daily, to be edified, to be guided, to know the teachings of the Lord. But we're also meant to not read them in isolation from others and what the correct teaching is, because one of the reasons we have hundreds of different denominations, most of them, the reason is, I believe, is that's a difference over the scriptures. That's why you have tons of different Christian churches. It's because at somewhere in all that, they disagree over certain verses of the Bible. So which one is the most accurate? That may not be a PC thing to ask these days, because we live in a postmodern world where it's like, oh, you do you, and we're all good. It's like everyone's got some of the truth, and we don't judge others, but we also have a belief as Orthodox Christians that it's not just everyone's on their own and everyone's is right. At some point, we got to ask which is the one that's most faithful to the apostles and the Lord's teaching. That's not a judgmental question, but that's a question we all long for, and we all need to know that we want to be in a church that's preserved intact completely the teachings of the apostles. By the way, welcome, Carla. I see Carla just joined us. So welcome. Can you hear us, Carla?
Yes.
Good. So, and again, because someone can read the scriptures, and they come up with all these crazy conclusions. For instance, that there's a God that is hateful and vengeful, and once you make a mistake, don't ever bother coming back to him. I'm just giving an example. I mean, that's a really kind of, superficial, extreme example. But there are these kinds, or you can do no wrong. Oh yeah, God is love, and live however you want. It's all good.
Like a prosperity doctrine?
Well, then there's the prosperity. Well, that I was thinking more morally speaking. It's like, oh, you can live any way you want morally, and it's like, God loves you, and it's true, God loves you always. but we know we can also fall away from God, and it's not like this magical thing that we're going to enter God's kingdom, because if you read certain passages of the scripture, you're kicked out of the banquet if you don't have the wedding garment, because of your choices you make. So I'm just giving some examples of how people can take one passage of scripture without consideration of the other passages of scripture, and kind of come up with this incomplete understanding. And this is just a couple of examples. So it's so important that for our salvation and our spiritual walk and our growth with Christ, to have a healthy, complete understanding of the scriptures. And the way we as Orthodox do that is along with reading it individually, but we also know there's some difficult passages that are not very easy to understand. Because of course, love your enemy, that's pretty, it's tough to do, but it's pretty straightforward. But there's other passages in scripture where it's like, what does that mean? What's that all about? And if you don't understand it, or if you're spiritually immature, or if you don't counterbalance it with other parts of scripture, you're going to go off a different road, which the apostles and the Lord were not about. So that's why we need guidance, especially with those difficult passages. And so that's why I included number 5 here, as you can see, this passage, which if someone doesn't mind, maybe Emily, save my voice, or you don't have the handout. Who's got the handout? Who can read number 5? Edna, read number 5. If you can.
And sitting in his chariot, am I reading the correct spot?
That's correct.
Okay. And sitting in his chariot, he was reading Isaiah the prophet. Then the Spirit said to Philip, "Go near and overtake this chariot." So Philip ran to him and heard him reading the prophet Isaiah and said, "Do you understand what you are reading?" And he said, "How can I, unless someone guides me?" And he asked Philip to come up and sit with him.
Okay, so you kind of have within this passage from Acts this idea of needing guidance, because this the eunuch was reading from Isaiah, and it's like he's like, I don't know what this means. I don't. And I think it was the passage from the suffering servant, how the Messiah will suffer, and so he needed guidance on that. In fact, lots of the Old Testament, you talk about, forget New Testament, Old Testament, oh my gosh, a lot of difficult passages in there, and how do we understand it in light of the New? But we know that the Old Testament, the New Testament fulfills the Old Testament, but we need guidance. And so this is one of the passages the Bible itself says we all need guidance, and the church is there to help us with that guidance. But there's also another, and by the way, if you do not have an Orthodox study Bible, you need to get one, because that is one of the ways we can understand, at least from an Orthodox perspective, the scriptures. And it includes both the Old and New Testament. If you don't have it, you can also get it online at the App Store. How many of you have it, by the way? Just raise your hand. Okay. Joe? No? Okay, Emily, you got a nice gift for him. But it's easily, but it's so important, because in that, it's awesome. And again, there's daily readings. If you go and you get the Orthodox Study Bible app as well, it has the daily readings too, so you can also look at that, and then the footnotes and the commentary. So that is just a jewel, really, especially the Old Testament. Oh my gosh, you can see how cool it is that the Old Testament intersects with the New, and just it's beautiful. So I highly recommend that. I'm glad you all have it. But the other passage I want to also, and I don't think I have it included in this handout, so you're going to have to listen, and that is, you can write, if you don't have a paper and pen, that's fine, but it's from 2 Peter 1:20, 21. And Peter writes, "Knowing this first, that no prophecy of the scripture is of any private interpretation." So that's 2 Peter 1:20. No prophecy of the scriptures of any private interpretation. So that's another nice verse that kind of speaks to this idea of we have to be that it's not really, we're not looking for our private interpretation. We're looking for what's the apostolic interpretation. And that's what the church has preserved intact. And so this is how we read the scriptures. And then you will see, though, Number 11, I include on the handout, the church of the living God, the pillar and ground of the truth. So that's, the church is the pillar and ground of the truth. It's the church that is the pillar and ground of truth. And it's the church that, the community of believers, with the apostles as the foundation, of Christ as the cornerstone, that can give us the most complete interpretation of the Holy Scriptures. If you turn the handout, you also see, I included, these are some of the other books that you will not find, that you may have heard of on the History Channel, when they try to have this special on, the books the church didn't want you to know. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Like trying to suppress it. I mean, it's just like, these are the ones that the church knew about these and just said, hey, some of these are good, they're edifying, so you can read them. They don't make the cut of New Testament, and others don't make the cut because this is not who our Lord is. This is not what he taught. Remember that the community is a family, okay? The church is a family. So when you're passing down to your children, stories of your loved ones, your grandparents, you're not passing down, false information. You want them to know the accurate stories that you experienced and you cherished and you had, and you're passing that down so it's preserved about your loved ones, so they know as much as possible, as accurately as possible, about your loved ones. Well, that's essentially what the church is doing. It's like, hey, this is going to bring you closer to Jesus. This is true about what these books are saying. These are not. And so these books, some of them are totally false, some of them are okay. I don't know off the top of my head which ones which. I can tell you in this book, in this list, actually, the Didache is an edifying early church writing of the first, if not early second century. It's about early church life and church structure. It's very interesting. I would actually recommend the Didache. I'd recommend the Proto-Evangelium of James actually is important, because in that, can everyone hear me okay still? Okay. In that Proto-Evangelium of James, you actually find the accounts of the infancy of the Virgin Mary. So a lot of the things we know about the Virgin Mary's birth and infancy and those kinds of things, and her being taken to the temple by her parents, are found in that Proto-Evangelium of James. Okay, so some of the and even icons that we have of the Virgin Mary as a young child are taken from this book. So that's important. The first epistle of Clement, some of you may have heard. That's also another really wonderful, edifying early Christian writing, not in the New Testament, but it not only is it edifying, but you learn a lot about kind of like what the church was at that point, and also a lot of spiritually edifying information. But some of the other ones I can't speak to because I can't remember, like Gospel of Thomas, I think that's erroneous, and some other kind of stuff in there. So there you have it, on the topic of the Bible and the Orthodox perspective on the Scriptures. Any final questions before we move on from that topic? So again, I want to say the Bible is super important. So anyone asks you, the Orthodox Church, what do you think about the Bible? Absolutely, we read the Bible. The Bible inspires us. Our own divine liturgy has been inspired by especially two specific books of the Bible, the book of Revelation and the book of Isaiah, because in those passages, Isaiah and Hebrews, because the Hebrews talks about Christ being a great high priest that serves as a tabernacle not made with hands. Well, we believe as Orthodox, based on these three books, that there's heavenly worship. And that heavenly worship, John in Revelation, Isaiah in Isaiah, and they saw revelation of the angels worshiping God on his throne. So that has inspired our divine liturgy, and how we understand what we're doing is something that is not just going on earth, but is we're participating in the worship that goes on in heaven, as the angels are perpetually with the saints worshiping God. So for us, the scriptures are so important in every respect, especially with our development of the divine liturgy. There was something else I wanted to share with you that I thought was pretty cool, regarding our understanding of the scripture, the divine liturgy, and how again, the altar, the church structure, the church architect, altar, having an altar, Holy Communion, the vestments that the priest wears. The idea of vestments just didn't come up because Orthodox were like, let's wear nice things, and priests and bishops. The idea of vestments goes back to Moses, goes back to Aaron and the Old Testament priesthood, and God instructing for Moses how worship should happen, when it should happen, what should be sacrificed, what should be worn by the priest. These are all biblical. So the Orthodox have followed it to the T, and it's developed, but it has inspiration in the scripture. So when people, once again, I go back full circle to when they say, oh, do you all believe in the Bible? It's like, first of all, we put it together. We don't say that. We don't say that arrogantly by any means, but we say factually, it's the church that put it together. It didn't just appear from thin air. And it's also, it influences and inspires everything we do. So absolutely. And I think people really were like, oh, they're blown away by how we understand the scriptures. Yes, Emily.
I think that a lot of times people get confused with that, to your point, because to mainstream Christianity, they'll go into a mainstream Christian like bookstore, and you have a ton of versions of the Bible, right? But then it's like, well, you won't find an Orthodox Bible in mainstream Christian bookstores. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding to that, and I'm glad you brought it up. And then when it comes to the when it's translated from the Greek, it gets lost in translation. So I think if you ever look a Bible side by side, right? Like I'll use, like, I don't know what the name of the Jehovah's Witness Bibles are. I'd say this for example because we have a very nice lady that would come and visit us that was a Jehovah's Witness here where I live with my mom. And the passages are like night and day. You could look at the same Bible verse and the interpretation and how it's written is completely different. So I don't know, just to touch upon that.
No, thank you for that, because that's a great point in terms of and I get this question. It's like, well, what Bible do you use as Orthodox? And our study Bible is we use the New King James Version. So that's our translation, New King James. And from my understanding from an Orthodox biblical scholar, that's pretty accurate, to the faithful to the translation, doesn't take a lot of liberties. Is it perfect? Probably not, but no translation is. What you want is the most accurate. You don't want a Bible that takes liberties. Now, for example, one that, let's say, Jehovah's Witness uses, my understanding is a key difference between the Jehovah's Witness and the Mormons, for that matter, is that they don't believe Jesus is the way we do. They don't believe Jesus as that he is equal to the Father. They believe him to be kind of an inferior to the Father. He's like God, but he's not equal to God the Father. So they do not have the classical Christian definition of Jesus Christ that's been from the beginning. And I mean that's a fact in terms of how early Christians and Christians over the centuries understood Jesus to be equal to the Son of God. And that is because, at least I can't remember, I think it may have been the Jehovah's or the Mormons or both, I can't remember, but the way they translate, one of them or both translates the beginning of the Gospel of John. because the beginning of the Gospel of John is, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. But that's our translation. Actually, that's our translation. That's a translation of, Christians. But the Jehovah's and Mormons, one or both, translate the word was a God. They add the article a. Now the Greek does not have that. So you could, you translate it the wrong way, you get a totally different theology.
Yeah.
So if you translate the word was God, the word was with God, and the word was a God, that means he's not equal to God the Father. He's a God, but he's not the God equal with the Father. So you do have to be careful on translations. And along with the New Testament or the New King James, I think there's a couple other ones we really adhere to. But there's other ones that, Orthodox don't use, not because, again, we put down other Bibles, but we always try to find the most accurate to the original language, which is the New Testament Greek of the New Testament. And so that's what the Orthodox Study Bible uses, is the New King James. I what's it called? Admire or applaud, obviously, Christians and churches that are trying to make the scriptures more accessible, trying to put it in a context that makes sense, especially for youth sometimes and teenagers. But you still have to be careful. And so still, while that is being done, if it loses, the power and the meaning of the original, that's where we as Orthodox get really a little nervous about that. And that's why we say these are the ones we advocate, and these are the ones we don't in terms of translations. And because we want the one that's faithful to what the original says for our own salvation and purpose. So trying to think what else to say on that matter of translation, but anyhow, thank you, Emily, for that question. Hopefully that answers it a little bit of why we don't just say go out and buy any Bible, because we can't say we know what all translations, how faithful they are, because if some people take liberties, where do they take the liberties? How far do they go? And most importantly, does it reflect, the apostolic teaching? And that for us is always the key. And that's what the Orthodox are always preserving. The teachings of the apostles intact, without change or without subtraction. So thank you for that question. Any other questions regarding the scriptures before we actually will probably conclude here with the scripture topic? So any final...
Well,
yes,
John. Do they still do the bishops or any of the the leaders read the Bible, and obviously they speak Greek, a lot of them, so they read it in its original context?
Well, the Greek that you hear in the church that I even read, that's the Greek that it was written in.
So that's the exact verbatim of when it was written in the original.
Verbatim.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot of people find that cool, that Greek that is now. Sometimes it's not pronounced the same. You may have heard, I think it's the Erasmian pronunciation. So the way we pronounce in the Greek Orthodox Church may not be the way, let's say, like, your college professor, New Testament scholar would pronounce it, but it is the same text of the original that is being read at the Divine Liturgy.
That's awesome.
Which I may say, though, one thing, not to go off on a tangent or a soapbox, which I'm tempted to do, but the only issues, even the Divine Liturgy is in a Greek that's not modern Greek. The Gospel, the Epistle, that's not modern Greek. As I said, the Gospel and the Epistle, or the Apostle, or the Acts, that's from the original Greek. The liturgy, the Greek is liturgical Greek, which I've heard it compared by one scholar. It's like what our English is compared to with Chaucer's English. So if you've ever read, I don't know, Beowulf or those kind of old English books, there you can barely understand it. Like,
Yeah.
so it's like, you need the Cliff Notes. So it's really interesting is that even though someone can speak Greek, modern Greek, doesn't mean they understand even this Greek. Just as a side note here, for whatever that's worth. And I just say that because why? Because if we're doing the liturgy right, it is supposed to be a language we understand. And most Greeks, I think if they're honest with you, will say, I don't understand everything that's being read or done in the liturgy.
Well, that's why it's so nice to have it also in English also.
Oh, yeah. You got to have it. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, and I know this is a very delicate topic and I'm being recorded, so I'm really shooting myself in the foot here, but, the reality is the liturgy is and the hymns of the church were meant not just to enjoy their melody, they were meant to also understand. But there's historical reasons for why we are where we are today in terms of using the old Greek and the liturgical Greek, which we don't have time to discuss at this point, other than to say, yes, John, to your question, that Greek that is used in the gospel and the epistle is the old stuff, is the original. So
that's neat.
Which is it has a cool factor, of course. I'm not trying to downplay.
The cool factor.
Cool factor. Because then you do feel a connection, I guess, if you will, to that early Christian church, which was hearing those letters with that language. If you think about the Greek of the New Testament, it's called Koine Greek, and Koine means common. It was the common language of the people. Greek and the Greek of the Bible of the New Testament was like English is today, this universal language. So when we hear that, it is cool in the sense of, you say, it's like, wow, we're not just hearing it in the original language, we're hearing it as the early Christians and the first Christians heard it. That's pretty amazing. So yeah, that is pretty amazing.
Cool.
We are, unless there are any final questions or comments before we conclude. If there are none, I want to thank everybody for our first Zoom catechism. I think it worked out. I don't know, could everyone hear okay? Worked out all right?
We
All
love
right.
that.
Share with your friends. I mean, I guess theoretically we can have up to 100 people on this. I don't know how you conceivably could do that.
That's a lot of tiles.
Yeah, that'd be quite a mosaic. But God bless you all. And again, we'll be meeting next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, 7:30. And we'll come in. And I'm going to also try to do this with some of our other ministries. I'm not sure if our Bible study, Emily, will work out because some of our members are on the elderly side. I don't know how tech savvy they are, but I don't mean to be ageist in that comment. Okay, anyways. Helen, welcome. Nice to see you, Helen. Okay.
To be listening to you. I'm so happy to be listening to the catechism classes.
Well, thank you, and stay tuned because, like I said, Matthew and I are going to try to also offer other things via, internet or virtual means of keeping people connected spiritually while we're in this situation of the coronavirus. So, anyhow, we'll go ahead and conclude with a prayer. You can just bow your heads in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Christ our God, we ask for your blessings upon us, your protection. Watch over the catechumens, Lord, who are journeying to orthodoxy. Keep them in your loving care. And all of us, and again, this world, that we may find healing and a vaccine for this illness, virus that is occurring, and protection for those who are ministering to those who are sick, and keep us in your loving care. We ask in your holy name, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless you all. And again, please keep in mind services, pre-sanctified liturgy at 6 o'clock, Friday, 6 o'clock. And you can watch online, okay? So you can watch that way. And by the way, if you're watching Wednesday night, during the pre-sanctified liturgy, there is a moment where the priest is praying for the catechumens, where he says, your catechumens, bow your heads to the Lord, may they be enlightened, and all these. That's referring to all of you who are catechumen, not you, Emily, you already, but for the rest of you who are journeying to orthodoxy, those are specific petitions for all of you. So just so you know, the church is praying for all of you in that service, and that's kind of a cool thing. So just so when you hear that, you know that we're all praying for you, for your journey, and we're just so excited, anticipate your joining us officially as Orthodox. God bless you all. Have a wonderful evening, and keep praying for the world, and you're in my prayers.
Thank you for doing this, Father Pete.
God bless everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Everybody.
Bye.
Time for sushi.
Time for sushi.